Welcome to Honest Whispers Review to Sale. On this video I'll be reviewing Mobile Suit Gundam Stardust Memory RX-78 GP01Fb U.N.T Spacy Prototype Multipurpose Mobile Suit. This is the 1/100 scale master grade model, released by Bandai back in 1997. Assembled by and detailed by me, Whisper, and this model is approximately from head to toe 7.5 inches tall, and with the beam saber handles approximately 8 inches tall. I'm going to go over 5 different categories to review this. Unfortunately, if I start showing you all the function and everything, I could probably talk about this for hours. But design is the first category, and I just want to go over basically the look, the articulations of course, and then the functionalities, or even the engineering, because it is well done, but you can tell this is the older model compared to newer master grades. And there's a lot of cool features here. You get the little thruster, but unfortunately, instead of opening up like you might see something on master grade Unicorn Gundam, this one rather it's like a separate part. You get a spare part that has the thrusters. You have to take these out and then put those in. Although these little thrusters do come out, and there are nice little functionalities, this figure or model actually has a core fighter inside. So the top part will detach where the head and shoulders and chest is, and underneath it is the cockpit of the core fighter. You basically fold it out, and that will kind of be the wings and the thrusters. So a good example right here would be on the instructions, and that is what the core fighter looks like. Of course, you take the beam saber handles and put them on the side right there, and underneath where it comes out, that's how it looks like. So the cockpit is basically like just underneath the exactly underneath this red shield, which actually opens up as well, so which is a cool feature. There are thrusters in the back of the legs that you can open up. Here is an example of one of the legs open up. So lots of cool features. It looks very clean too, so a lot of things you can't really tell unless you it's either pointed out to you. For instance, the shield itself has a lot of functions. There is a handle that pulls out and it swivels. You have 2 extra ammo packs right here for the gun that detaches, and they're exactly the same, so you could pull it out from the gun, which is a nice cool feature. And also the shield right here, it basically folds out. The lower part folds out and up, maybe up to the top would be maybe up to the halfway point right there. So that also has a nice feature. But the look overall, I do like it. It used to be one of my favorite, but this is also the infamous floppy feet Gundam, or it's even known as the clown feet Gundam. And reasoning being is that the design of the feet is just proportionately a little bit bigger than it should be, and it's like that in the anime, but then of course it just translates bad in real life or 3D. So in certain angles it just looks a bit too much, and the fact that it's there's not much other red area, so the fact that you get this huge red surface, especially certain angles. It looks very weird. You can tell it's just the feet a little bit too big, and even loses some functionality where, for instance, the ankle armor can get in the way. So when you fold that front part of the foot up, it could get caught with the armor, and as you can see, this would be an example. You in order to fold that part forward or up, at least the front foot up, you would have to make sure you hold the ankle armor up. I don't know, front ankle, I guess. Otherwise, everywhere else pretty good. Shoulders can get in the way of the shield. Here's a good example on the picture above. That's kind of like just above it, but you could still see how the arm's slightly bent just to keep the shield up. My model, unfortunately, I have to bend it a little bit more just to keep everything symmetrical, and reasoning why, which I cover in sculpting, is the joints. But otherwise, engineering, everything here looks great, or done great. But you could tell they made a lot of improvements when you build or see a newer one, a newer master grade one. So if it was look wise, I mean, I would give it something like a high score, like 9. If it's just functionality wise, I would probably lower it to something like 5, an average. Because even the fingers, like, they give you switch out hands. So a lot of the newer ones, you don't need to switch out the hands. So there's a lot of inconvenient, I mean, if you want to do certain features, the fact that you have to switch out parts or things like that, it just becomes a bit of a hassle. So overall, the design, I give it a 7 out of 10. Next category is sculpting. Sculpting basically covers the accuracy, execution, and in this case also, I guess, functionality in a sense where the joints, okay, even though this is still pretty much new, ever since I built it, I just kept it in storage, but there's many parts that just was loose from day one, and even tends to kind of just fall apart. So gravity will always win in certain body parts. Even the fingers, sometimes it's hard to just, it took a while just to get that gun straight and sturdy. Here's another example. This armor right here too, pretty much just falls to gravity. And since the shield is so heavy, if you try to hold it up like he's using it to shield himself, or even using the handle, it just tends to, gravity will tend to not just bring it down, but there won't be enough grip for it to hold. So the shield will just kind of be, it'll have this weird hanging, awkward look. So there's a lot of, unfortunately, your pose, the poses that you can do, even though you have the articulation to do it, you're just not able to pose the way you want. So unfortunate. I wish like every part of the joints were all stiff and, you know, it just fit better. I had no problem assembling it. There weren't any issues with parts not fitting. It's just that the joints and certain parts are just not sturdy enough. So when you're fixing one part, another part might come loose or something. So it's just, can be a bit of a hassle. So for the sculpting, otherwise there wasn't any molding issues or anything like that. I mean, once you take it off the piece, I mean, it's really your job, your best job to kind of make it as the cleanest cut. And for me, I just shave down every edge so every part's smooth and fits good. But otherwise, yeah, it's just the way the joints are. Everything's accurate and dead on pretty much with the anime, the way it looks. This is more like CG art, but yeah, it makes the model kit, it looks like the Mobile Suit Gundam come to life, literally in 3D. Everything looks great. It's just unfortunate you can't do a lot of cool poses. Maybe with the stand, you might be able to, but otherwise, even with the stand, I would think you would be limited. So for sculpting, I give it a 6 out of 10. Next category is colors. Basically not painting, because all the plastic are colored plastic. So they come in blue plastic, yellow plastic, white plastic, red plastic, even translucent plastic for, of course, the beam itself, for the beam saber. And there is for this little glass piece on that little either an eyesight, I guess, for the gun. So the detail, I basically used official Gundam markers. I pretty much try to cross all the T's, dot all the I's. I followed all the samples, and even on the back of the instructions, you get the back. Of course, you have the same images here, and it does have certain detail painting guide, although I can't really read all of it. I just go by the sample. So basically, if you look closely, I got everywhere from top to bottom: the headpiece, the mouth, or I guess the two lines on that nose area, the gun above his ears, chest, torso, all the armors, legs, hands, basically everywhere on the arms. Try to get as accurate as well. And a lot of these have nice grooves on them, so most areas weren't that hard. And I try to make it as symmetrical as possible. And of course, adding the red to it definitely added a nice, without the red, I think it just looks a little plain. So I had the red followed, I followed where to do all the red as well. So it turned out really great. This is one of the few Gundams that I completed, even the gun, everything, and I'm not trying to be biased, but if you really look at it, in my opinion, professional quality, because I've seen some at a Gundam store displayed, and there were some sloppy lines here and there. So definitely, with the perfectionist attitude I have sometimes, this is the result. Of course, the time I put in was tremendous, and in a sense, not worth it. So the colors, I give it, it's as accurate as it is. The only flaw I have is it does come with decals and this imprinting sheet where you put it against it and you just kind of like you rub it, you transfer it by rubbing against the surface of the plastic or the body part you're trying to get on. So all the black and white came out clean. Anything colored, those are like stickers and decals, like these pink right here. I guess they're supposed to be like the on-off switch. Logo right here, on the shield. Wow, the RX-78 right there, that's the imprint sheet. On the knees, those are stickers. So little things like that. Otherwise, here's a few more, and even though they're letters, they are decals. You can see off the light as well, like the nose step and even the middle U.N.T, these black ones. But still, overall looks great. Now, the one flaw that there is that on the side of the core fighter is another U.N.T Spacy, you know, the name of the core fighter and everything. But every time you put this on and off, like right here, how it detaches, it rubs, that surface, that edge rubs against it, and it'll kind of scratch off. So that's a bit of a flaw. So I never really try to take the core out. So due to that, I give the colors a 9 out of 10. Could have been perfect, but it's a bit of a flaw if when you're trying to do something like just take out the core, every time you do that, you're risking that imprint right there to scratch off, or you know. So even mine right now, like some of the letters, part of the letters got scratched off, so it's just more and more it looks messier and messier. Next category is value. Value pretty much, I mean, it's retail versus quality, but at the same time, it is retail versus aftermarket value. As far as this goes, it's, wow, I mean, it's over 20 years old, and you can still find a new one, an unassembled one, same box, everything, which means like it's the 1997. I don't know if they even made a new one. And that you can find one as low as $38 on eBay. I've seen one even cheaper on Amazon for $34, and that's shipping included or free shipping. So there really is no aftermarket value on this, if you know. But as far as mine goes, I am gonna list this for sale, and due to a lot of the time and effort I put into this, I figured, I mean, there's got to be someone out there that's willing to at least pay a little bit more than the retail that I paid. It's been so long ago when I bought this. I bought this probably like early 2000s, around that $40, maybe it was a little bit more if I remember, but it was in the 40s range, with tax probably a little bit more than 40. So I could, in a sense, I could probably, I mean, 20 years later, I could get it cheaper than when it first came out as. Now, as far as built ones like this, I haven't seen any for sale. The Gundam store that I've been to, a local Gundam store, they sell something like this for like 125, 150. Now, I never got to touch it and see how the joints are and stuff, but for me, the fact that the joints kind of suck on this, I mean, I couldn't sell it to a customer for that amount of, you know, that high of a price. But I will probably try to get as much as I can once I list this. So value on this, there really is an aftermarket value or anything like that. I guess it really depends on how well you build and assemble it and detail it. So for me, I'm just going to leave the value at an average 5 out of 10. Because if you were to ask me how long this took me, if hours were accumulated to a total, I would have to be on the days. It took me days to actually complete this. So final category is overall. Overall, basically, it's the accumulative score of the 4 prior categories: design, sculpting, colors, value. And for me, This is one of my favorite Gundams that I own. As I mentioned, there are some minor flaws with the feet and everything, but even with the feet in certain angles, the feet looks cool. Doesn't matter, or like everything about it, just it kind of goes with it. Just a bit of that exaggeration, especially if you hold this up and have the feet kind of like in a flying position where the feet are, you know, like kind of folded outwards. Does have a better look to it due to its like sharp angles. Like it really looks cool when you're looking at it like that, but in certain angles the feet can be a bit overwhelming. So, and of course, as I mentioned, I mean, I could stare at this and talk about this for hours, but unfortunately, just to set this up took me a long time. So, like, the fact that it's so delicate and fragile, that's one of the reasons why I'm also letting this go, because I just don't have the space or the money to continue holding on to these things. So hopefully I could find a good home for it, and someone who knows about Gundam and can appreciate something like this and handle it as well, because as I mentioned, there's no way you could play with this. If you play with this, you're gonna end up with bunch of little parts and stuff like that. So there's no way a kid should play with it. But as far as just as a collection, something like this, just to even display on this just a normal standing position, is really awesome. It's especially because all the details, it just highlights all the little intricate design, the lines and everything. So overall, I give it a 7 out of 10. So to recap, design 7 out of 10, sculpting 6 out of 10, colors 9 out of 10, value 5 out of 10, and overall 7 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Until next time, try watching Stardust Memory. I know it's very old, but I really recommend it. Very good and one of the top Gundam series of all time.